Good morning all of you. This is 12th class biology chapter 13 organisms and population, lecture number 3. Topics to be discussed in today's lecture are different types of adaptations in organisms to cope up with abiotic factors, and after that you will study about population attributes. So let's see what type of adaptations can be there in organisms to cope up with abiotic factors. So adaptation is the morphological, physiological and behavioral attribute that enables an organism to survive and reproduce in its habitat. So adaptation can be morphological change in any organism, it can be physiological change, or it can be any behavioral change. Okay, so any type of change that enables an organism to survive in a particular environment, in a habitat, and to reproduce in that habitat, because that is also essential for the survival of any species. Okay, so any type of such change to survive in a particular environment is called adaptation. Many adaptations have evolved over a long evolutionary time and are genetically fixed. So these adaptations come due to evolution, right? And those adaptations which come through evolution, you can say those are genetically fixed, because these adaptations comes through some genes. Okay, that's why these are genetically fixed. So let's see adaptations of kangaroo rat in North American desert. This is an example of adaptation. So internal fat oxidation gives water as byproduct if there is no external source of water. So this is an adaptation in kangaroo rat, because this it is living in American deserts and there is deficiency of water. So to cope up with that situation, what happened in case of kangaroo rat? Internal fat oxidation. Okay, the fat oxidation inside the body of that rat gives water as a byproduct. So as a product, water is formed due to fat oxidation inside the body of kangaroo rat, right? And that water is utilized for different metabolic reactions by that kangaroo rat. If because there is water deficiency in the external environment, that's why that internal water released due to fat oxidation can be utilized by rat. Next is ability to concentrate urine. Okay, this is another adaptation in kangaroo rat to survive in that environment. It has ability to concentrate the urine so that minimal amount of water is used to remove excretory products. Okay, so to inhibit the loss of water through the urine, it has ability to concentrate its urine. So these two adaptations are found in kangaroo rat to survive in American deserts. Next is adaptations of desert plants. Like in desert plants, there is presence of thick cuticle on leaf surfaces, and these thick cuticles reduce the transpiration rate. Okay, inhibit the loss of excess water through the surface. Then sunken stomata help to minimize water loss through transpiration. So stomata are sunken stomata, small in size, right? So that's why it also minimizes the water loss through transpiration. Next adaptation is CAM photosynthetic pathway, that is cressulation acid metabolism. Okay, that is you can say C4 pathway is found in these plants, which enables their stomata to remain closed during daytime, right? So stomata remain closed during daytime, and that's why there is minimum loss of water. Next adaptation in these plants is desert plants like Opuntia have no leaves, like you have seen Opuntia plant. So there are no leaves in Opuntia, and they are reduced to spines. So these leaves are reduced to spines. That's why there is no loss of water through leaf surface through transpiration, right? Because these leaves have reduced to spines. Photosynthesis is done by stems. So if there are no leaves, then photosynthesis function is performed by which part of plant? It is performed by stems. Next is about adaptations of mammals. So mammals from colder climates have shorter ears and limbs to reduce heat loss. In colder climates, mammals have shorter ears and also limbs are shorter, so that heat loss can be reduced, right? Because if the surface area will be larger, there will be more heat loss, okay? And this is called Allen's rule, right? So according to Allen's rule, mammals of colder climates have shorter ears and limbs to reduce heat loss. Aquatic mammals like seals have a thick layer of fat that is called blubber. As you can see here in the in this picture, seal is there, okay, and blubber is shown here. So blubber is a thick layer of fat. So in these aquatic mammals, this blubber is present, okay, a thick layer of fat is present, and you know what is function of fat? It acts like as an insulator, right? So this blubber, which is present below their skin, acts as an insulator and reduces loss of body heat. That's why these mammals are able to survive in colder climates. Next is about physiological and biochemical adaptations. So here first example is of Archaebacteria. So Archaebacteria are found in hot springs and deep sea hydrothermal vents. Those are very harsh habitats. Okay, so and where temperature is more than 100 degrees Celsius, and you know the reason behind it, because these Archaebacteria have some enzymes which do not denature at very high temperature, and that's why their metabolic reactions are not inhibited, okay, and so these Archaebacteria can survive at very high temperature. Next example in physiological and biochemical adaptations is many fish thrive in Antarctic waters where temperature is below 0 degrees Celsius. So what happens usually at the temperature below 0 degrees Celsius, body fluids start freezing, okay, but these fish can survive at that temperature because these have some anti-freezing proteins which inhibit the freezing of their body fluids, the formation of crystals of their body fluids. So you can note down these things. So these fishes have some anti-freezing proteins. That's why these can survive in Antarctic waters. Next example is of many marine invertebrates and fishes live at great depths in the ocean where the pressure is more than 100 times the normal atmospheric pressure. As we go in depth of ocean, what happens? Pressure starts increasing, okay, and what happens normally, if we will go down in the depth of the ocean, we will get crushed due to that very high pressure, right? Because pressure is very high, more than 100 times the normal atmospheric pressure. But at that high pressure, some invertebrates and fishes can survive. How? Because these invertebrates and fishes do not have body cavities. Any type of body cavity is not present there, okay, and that's why these are not crushed at that high pressure, right? So these are different physiological and biochemical adaptations in different organisms which make them able to survive in such harsh habitats. Next, there are some more examples of the physiological and biochemical adaptation, like at a high altitude place. When we go at a hill station, you can say, right, high altitude place like more than 3500 meters, we can say a hill station. We feel altitude sickness, right? What is that altitude sickness? What are the symptoms? Nausea, heart palpitation. Heart palpitation is a condition like in which you feel that your heart is skipping the beats, okay, your heart is beating very fast, and you feel like fluttering, heart is fluttering, okay, and also fatigue. So all these are symptoms of altitude sickness. This is due to low atmospheric pressure. So this altitude sickness is due to low atmospheric pressure. So body does not get enough oxygen because atmospheric pressure is low. That's why partial pressure of oxygen will also be low, right? And if partial pressure of oxygen is low, our body does not get enough oxygen, and that's why these symptoms will be seen. Gradually we acclimatize the situation. Okay, acclimatize is different from adaptation. Acclimatize means short-term adaptation. Okay, the organisms which are living permanently in any area, in those organisms adaptations are seen according to that environment. But here we are going to a hill station for some days, right? That's why we are using acclimatize. It is short-term adaptation. Our body is adapting those situations for short time period. So this is acclimatization, right? So gradually we acclimatize the situation, means after some time, for some time we will feel the altitude sickness, but after some time our body will acclimatize that situation, and the body compensate low oxygen availability by increasing the RBC and breathing rate, right? Because partial pressure of oxygen is low there. So what our body will do? It will compensate that low oxygen availability by increasing the RBC production. Our red blood cell production will increase, and breathing rate will also increase, so that we can get enough oxygen, right? And along with that also decreasing the binding capacity of hemoglobin. Okay, so that more hemoglobin will be available for carrying the oxygen fastly, right? So all these changes will occur to acclimatize us according to that situation, right? So you need to learn all these points, that how our body acclimatize, how our body compensate for the low oxygen availability by increasing the RBC production, by increasing the breathing rate, and by decreasing the binding capacity of hemoglobin. Next is behavioral adaptations. So behavioral adaptation is found in many organisms, like desert lizards. Bask in sun, means these come in sun, here you can see in the first picture, and absorb heat when their body temperature is low, right? So this is behavioral change, means they come under the sun to increase their body temperature when their body temperature is low, but move into shade when the ambient temperature starts increasing. So ambient temperature means their internal body temperature. When it starts increasing, these lizards move into shade. Some species burrow into soil to hide and escape from above ground heat. So this is another example of behavioral adaptation. Next topic is populations. So first of all, you need to know what is population. A population is a group of individuals of same species that live in a given geographical area, share or compete for similar resources, and potentially reproduce. So here, group of individual of same species, like you can say cat population, dog population, that live in a given geographical area. Okay, so those are sharing same geographical area. So for a particular area, you can say this is cat population of that area, this is human population of that area. Okay, like that. And if these individuals are living in same geographical area, then obviously these will compete for similar resources and will potentially reproduce, right? For example, there are examples of some population, like all the cormorants in a wetland. Cormorants are a type of birds which live in wetland. Okay, so their population. Rats in an abundant dwelling. So in any habitat, a population of rat, you can say. Teak wood trees in a forest tract. All the teak wood trees will make a population. Bacteria in a culture plate, that is also a population. And lotus plant in a pond, that is also a population of lotus plants. Okay, so like that you will count the group of individual of same species here. Okay, of same species individual will make a population. Now, what is population ecology? It is an important area of ecology as it links ecology to population genetics and evolution. Okay, like how the genes change and how that evolution occur in a population, right? So population ecology is very important because if we study about the evolution, then we must consider the population. The whole population is considered there, not a single organism is taken into account at that time, right? So that's why we can say that population ecology is important in terms of evolution study. Now, attributes of population. So there are total 5 attributes of population, like birth rates, death rates, sex ratio, age pyramid and population density. These are attributes of only population, and these are not found in organism. Like for any single organism, we cannot say what is its birth rate or death rate or its sex ratio, okay, because a single organism will be either male or female, so we cannot talk about sex ratio. But for a population, we can talk about birth rate, death rate and sex ratio, age pyramid and population density, right? So these are attributes of population which are not found in single organism. So let's start with first attribute of population, that is birth rate. So birth rate refers to per capita birth. Per capita birth means per individual or per person birth. Okay, so per person or per individual birth is called birth rate, right? For example, in a pond there are 20 lotus plants last year, and through reproduction 8 new plants are added. So total number of plants will be 28 now. We can say current population of lotus plant in that pond will be 28. So what will be the birth rate, or you can say per capita birth, per individual birth if we talk about, it will be 8 by 20, right? The answer will be 0.4. So we can say birth rate is 0.4 offspring per lotus per year, right? So this is how we can calculate birth rate. Next attribute of population is death rate, and similarly that of birth rate, it is also per capita deaths, means per individual death you can say. And for example, if 4 individuals in a laboratory population of 40 fruit flies died during a week, you can say in a laboratory there are total 40 fruit flies, and out of these 40, 4 have been died during a week, right? So how will you calculate the death rate? Death rate will be 4 upon 40. 4 have been died and 40 were total, right? So 4 upon 40. The answer will be 0.1, right? So 0.1 individuals per week you can say, that will be death rate for the fruit flies, right? So this is how you can calculate birth rate and death rate. Next attribute is sex ratio. A population has a sex ratio, okay, but individual doesn't have. For example, 60% of population is female and 40% is male. So if you take into account any population, in that you can say you can tell about the sex ratio also, about the male and female ratio, okay. So this is an attribute of population. The remaining attributes we will do in next lecture. For today your homework is NCERT question number 1, 3, 5 and 11. Now let's discuss the homework solution of previous lecture, and this is answer for question number 10 of NCERT A part. Here you need to differentiate hibernation and estivation. So hibernation is also known as winter sleep, and it is a state of reduced activity observed in some entities or in some organisms you can say, to escape the extreme cold climatic condition, okay. So both hibernation and estivation are a type of suspend, okay, to cope up with the unfavorable environment you can say, right? In hibernation there is winter sleep and there is reduced activity to escape from cold climate, while in estivation it is summer sleep, and it is also a state of reduced activity, but it is to escape from the summer, okay, from the hot climate you can say. to escape the dehydration, because in hot climate there can be dehydration, to escape from dehydration as a result of heat. So these are different. One is winter sleep and another is summer sleep. And examples, in hibernation there are squirrels, bears found in cold regions. All these hibernate in winters. And estivation examples are found in snails and fishes. Next is answer of B part of question number 10. Here you need to differentiate ectotherms and endotherms. So ectotherms, the body temperature varies with their surrounding. Body temperature varies with their surrounding. Okay, so this is you can say a term used for poikilotherms. Okay, cold-blooded animals, you can say. Those can also be called ectotherms, in which body temperature varies with their surrounding. While endotherm is another name for warm-blooded animals, right? And their body temperature remains constant, as you know. So you can say ectotherms are cold-blooded entities and endotherms are warm-blooded entities. And I hope you know about the another name of warm-blooded entities. That term can also be used in place of endotherm. Okay, so there are some examples of poikilotherms. Those are reptiles, fishes, amphibians, and for endotherms, these are mammals and birds. Next is question number 13 of NCERT, and here you need to give an example for each. Like for an endothermic animal, so endothermic animal can be any warm-blooded animal. Okay, like crows, sparrows, means most of the all the birds are warm-blooded animals. Okay, cows, rabbits, rats, these are also warm-blooded animal, or you can say endothermic animals. In next B part, you need to tell example of ectothermic animal, or you can say cold-blooded animal. So here you can tell the examples of any reptile, right? So sharks, frogs, snakes, tortoise, lizards, all these are ectothermic animals. Next is an example of an organism of benthic zone. Benthic zone I told you in previous lecture. So organism of benthic zone, here decomposing bacteria is an organism of benthic zone. You can tell this example.